but I'm really excited to be part of this. And I guess just to get this thing kicked off, I'd like to maybe call the meeting to order and then also start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So Janet, if you wouldn't mind putting up our American flag here. You see, I told you I'd give you some time, and then I just went quick. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. Here it is.
All right, great.
When you're ready.
All right, let's get started. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, excellent. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move to roll call. So can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Okello.
Present.
Commissioner Mene. I don't see him. Okay. Commissioner Green.
Present.
Commissioner Marylise.
Present.
Chair Laguna.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, let's just see if Commissioner Mann is not on yet. All right, great. Okay, so I think as we've been doing over the last couple of months, and we'll have to continue to do this as the pandemic continues, we'll need to adopt a resolution to continue meeting virtually. And as I think Director Calderon and others have mentioned, last summer the governor signed the Assembly Bill 361, which basically allows local agencies to continue to use the teleconferencing under many of the same rules that were provided in, I think there were a couple of executive orders in 2020, and to be done as long as there is a continued state of emergency. So as part of this AB 361, it basically mentions that if the emergency lasts for 30 days, which, September to now, it has been more than 30 days, each legislative body or agency will need to kind of reaffirm or confirm the findings that it's not safe to be able to meet in person, to continue to use the bill's exemption of the Brown Teleconferencing Act. So I think what we need to do, as we've done a couple of other months, is to start providing a motion to continue to meet virtually. Before I did that, though, I believe I do have to open it up for public comment. So I don't know if there's some comments from the folks that are on the call right now.
Hi, thank you, Chair Laguna. There is some public comments. People do have their hands raised, but I also have my blurb about public comments and how to go about that. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So for those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we'll be using the raised hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period and for each agenda item, we will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raised hand feature to raise or unraise your hand for that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raised hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your microphone and you may begin speaking. Right now, I do see 3 hands raised.
And Janet, before we go into there, I did want to say one other thing. So this is on this particular agenda item. We're actually going to be opening up for public comment for items not on the agenda next, once we've actually adopted that resolution to author the virtual commission meetings. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so these are for items not on the agenda.
Yeah.
So it'll give you a chance to kind of unraise your hand if this is the wrong time to do so. So we're going to go ahead and call on the first one, which is Michael Murphy. Michael, please accept this invitation, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Mike Murphy. I live at 903 Christopher Way, a few blocks down Bay Road from Flood Park. And my comment is about taking care of the woodland at Flood Park. I've watched the video of last month's meeting of the new working group, and it was great to hear.
Michael, so
Yes.
this public comment is on the resolution authorizing virtual commission meetings.
Oh, I'm
If
sorry.
and when we're able to do that next,
I'm sorry,
we will
I
have
just-
public. Yeah,
That's fine. I just heard my name and the unmute button came
no
up.
problem.
Okay,
No problem. No problem.
thank you.
Great. Okay. So are there any other hands raised right now? Like I said, we'll go next and open up for public comments not on the agenda. But for now, this is on the resolution authorizing the virtual commission meetings.
Thank you. You know, I think that's thank you for making that clear. And I think that was the last one, so we can move on for the next item.
Okay, great. Well, now I got it. So I guess what I'll do just to expedite this is I'll move to adopt a resolution authorizing the Parks Commission to meet virtually here in January, given the imminent risk of meeting in person. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, great. Janet, can I have a roll call?
Commissioner Okello,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Merlis,
Yes.
Commissioner Mene. I don't think he's still on. Okay. Chair Laguna.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Great. Thank you for that. All right. So now that we have that out of the way, I'll begin the meeting with public comment. So this is an opportunity for individuals to address items not on the agenda. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. I believe Janet already, I think she brought that up. Since a lot of these items are not on the agenda, it's not up for discussion, but we definitely appreciate and welcome all public comments. Janet, since you already went through kind of the instructions, maybe we just see who has their hands up.
Sounds good to me. We do have, let me double check. Some people with their hands raised. We do have first Carlisle Ann Young. Carlisle Ann Young, please accept this invitation. Unmute your microphone and you begin speaking, and you do have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. I would like to remind the Coastal, excuse me, I said Coastal Commission, Parks Commission, that we are unrepresented out here on the mid-coast, and we haven't had anybody come speak to the MCC recently. So maybe you could, Nicholas or somebody could, possibly Neil, come and address the expenditures from the coastside mitigation fee fund at the county, and also give us an update on all the parks and the most recent improvements that you expended from that fund, as well as in the future, as you're going to expend those funds, maybe you could get permission in advance through the Mid-Coast Community Council, because we still don't have a community center here. And as I've mentioned before, there are a lot of county parks, but we don't have any kind of local park, which is what that mitigation fee is supposed to be spending money on, not county parks, but features for the local community. Thank you very much. That's it. Oh, and by the way, I was on the agenda and it looks like you attached something from 2000, where I saw on one of the last pages that is one of the things you'll do is share work and with local city councils and city parks. But we, again, have a Mid-Coast Community Council and it's not mentioned here. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Young, for your comment. We now have Michael Murphy. Michael, please accept the invitation, unmute your microphone and begin speaking. You'll also have 2 minutes.
Great. There it is. So I'm Mike Murphy. I live at 903 Christopher Way, which is a few blocks down Bay Road from Flood Park. And my comment is about taking care of the woodland at Flood Park. I watched the video of last month's meeting of the new working group, and it was great to hear all of the very positive intentions for cooperation and community inclusion and moving the project forward. But I'm concerned that the Parks Department seems to remain very committed to the 2020 revised conceptual landscape plan, which includes cutting down the heart of the woodland in order to make room for a playing field. And the Reimagined project has a continuing problem that it tries to squeeze too many features into too small a space, And so far in the 2020 plan, what's getting squeezed out is the woodland, which is probably the single most valuable asset that Flood Park has. This is a tragic mistake. Even though the woodland doesn't have an influential support group, it's a favorite place for many in the community. It's a beautiful chunk of natural green space in a community that needs green space, in a country that needs to be protecting nature and not removing it. When it comes to figuring out where to put playing fields, there are much better alternative arrangements that would provide playing space without destroying so much of the woodland. How can these alternatives get into the decision-making process? Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an official way for community members to present ideas like this to the working group, but I'm going to try and find an unofficial pathway and put some of these alternatives in front of them. Also, I hope that some of these alternatives might be allowed into discussion during the February public input workshop. Thank you for the opportunity to present my comment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murphy. I will lastly call on Mr. Ron Snow. Mr. Snow, please accept this invitation, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Yes, this is Ron Snow, and I live in Menlo Park. Happy New Year. I heard someone else say Happy New Year, so it's good to start the new year. I'd like to add my support to what Mike Murphy just said. I think there is maybe too much being put into the park, and that's into Flood Park. And I think that's shown by the fact that the heart of the woodland is going to be decimated. And then additionally, the EIR goes on to say that many of the trees around that area are going to suffer severe damage, I think is what it says, and harmful impact. And so that's sort of the questionable aspect of how many other trees are going to be impacted by that. We've put a lot of energy into sort of documenting the nature of the park and the importance of the park to the natural environment there, the birds, the fauna, everything. And I do hope that you all consider the aspect that the most important feature of the park is the woodland. And if the woodland were to be preserved, and as Mike had indicated, some of these alternatives for the placement of the playing fields is accepted, there could be a considerable amount of savings achieved by that. So I hope that you will open the door for accepting the community's desire to preserve those trees. So there's thousands of people that are expressing this want, and consider some actions that would allow that playing field to be moved out of the woodland and the woodland preserved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Snow. With that, I don't see any further hands raised for this item, Chair Laguna.
Great. Okay, so, and thank you everyone for your comments. So the next item is to take action to set the agenda. So could I ask for a motion to set the agenda?
I move we set the agenda.
Second?
Second.
Great. Janice, roll call.
Commissioner Okello,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Mary-Elise,
Yes.
Chair Laguna.
Yes.
Okay, and still nothing from Commissioner Mena. I think he's absent this meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you, everybody. All right, so next we have up the Parks Foundation Executive Director's report. So Michelle, oh, there you are. Michelle, take it away.
Happy New Year, commissioners and guests. Happy to report out on a couple of things. In about October, we opened up our 3 grant programs for volunteer groups, park rangers, and also our new one, Enhancing Equitable Access to San Mateo County Parks. And that closed the week of Thanksgiving, and so we got to spend a little bit of time reviewing those applications. And so we're funding everybody. And that's really exciting. And then the 3 organizations that applied under the Enhancing Equitable Access Grant Program were Brown Girls Surf. They have a surfing school off that they take people to, and I think use Murata Surf as one of their launching points. We also funded the Siena Youth Center and Girls to Women, which is based in East Palo Alto. So very excited about that and hope to grow that program in coming years. Another thing that's happened since the commission met in December is the foundation has released funding to purchase more lumber to complete campsites at Memorial Park. So we're excited to continue making improvements to Memorial Park, and thanks to the San Mateo County Parks Foundation Board for releasing that. We also kicked off a working relationship with MIG to look at the welcome area and general flow of Memorial Park. So getting excited as we get closer to the park's centennial in 2024. So that's my quick update. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Great. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Through the chair, just a quick comment. Thank you, Michelle, for that update. And it's always exciting to hear about new things coming down the pipeline. Just a thought really for you, Chair Laguna, as we embark on this year of monthly meetings that we've always had, well, as long as I've been on, which is not terribly long, Parks Foundation reports every meeting, but that may be a thing that we, do every other month or, to your discretion, but
yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. And I think obviously, the big agenda topic that we have is going to be the retreat, and a lot of what we're going to be not only just priorities and subcommittees, but also how we're going to slot agenda topics moving forward now that we have the flexibility of double the meetings every year. So no, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think we should figure out what makes the most sense, not only for just Michelle, but for everyone involved in these meetings as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? All right. So maybe I can open it up for any public comment.
We're now opening public comment. If your hand is raised, your name will be called. So far, I don't see any hands raised for this item, Chair. Actually, we do have one. We do actually have one hand raised for Mr. Ron Snow.
Great.
Mr. Snow, please unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Give me 1 second while I pull up the timer. You will have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. The timer didn't come up. Okay, there.
There it is.
I might be off on this, but I did want to, since you mentioned the commissioners retreat, I did want to find out how does the public, how do people like myself and others get input into that, and also how do we find out what's happening in that? What is the, that's my main thing. So if this is the wrong public comment session for that, that's my main comment on the commission, the parks retreat. I'm getting tongue tied here. Sorry about that. Anyway, I would like to have that be transparent and have the ability to have input and put agenda items forward. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for your input. And we do have an agenda item later on to start talking about that. So that might be the right time to bring it up.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Snow. That was the last hand raised for this item. And
Great.
go ahead.
All right. So I guess from here, we're going to move to Director Calderon's report.
Yeah. So really just wanted to use today as an opportunity to bring the commission up to speed on some of the storm damage that we have had. So kind of working through the districts, at Coyote Point, we had a number of large trees go down, and this is a common theme throughout the system. When you have a drought, this long period of little to no rain, and then you get this heavy rainfall during these storms that we just got. That's a common theme and common occurrence. So you'll hear that a lot today. But we had a number of large trees go down at Coyote Point, including one by the main entrance that had to be bucked up and removed. So that was done. Staff has that open, but is still working on cleaning up some of the debris through Coyote Point. We also had to close Crystal Springs Trail due to flooding. So Crystal Springs Trail was heavily impacted. In fact, we received so much water that the shoulder started to wash out. So we had that closed for a duration of time. And we're still working on repairing the shoulder there. And we had staff out there this week, and we'll continue to make those improvements as we go forward. But as the shoulder washes out, it becomes a tripping hazard. It leads to instability on the trail. So really trying to make sure that we identify those issues and address them as soon as possible. Moving south to District 2, Richards Road in Hutter Park also had a washout, and so we've had to close that road and trail, and we're still going through Hutter and doing some assessments for the trees to see what type of tree debris needs to be cleaned up. And we had some culverts fail at Wonder Lake as well. So this just the amount of sheer water we got was overwhelming in some areas. Down at Memorial, we had flooding in a lot of our campsites, and we actually saw so much, we received so much water down there that we saw a huge increase in what our wastewater treatment plant was processing. So, and it's just water flowing in from all directions. So we've been able to monitor that, stay on top of that, and not having any long-term issues there, but certainly, something that we need to keep our eyes on. Specifically with that being a new plant, we need to make sure that we're properly maintaining that and monitoring that. We also had a very large tree go down across Old Hall Road. So the commission will recall Old Hall Road served as that northeastern boundary of the CZU fire. And we've yet to open that to the public, in large part because we needed to see how that area was going to respond. And we're really getting a good sense now. We are seeing some tree die off as a result of the fire, but we had a really large redwood go down across Old Hall Road, and so we're working on cleaning that up, as well as making sure we're monitoring long-term impacts there. But that's a great example as to why we are not opening Old Hall Road just yet. There's still these hazards that we need to make sure we've been able to properly identify and remediate. So keeping our eyes on that, and when it's safe to get in there, we'll make sure that we do so, have a proper assessment done, and then implement the necessary hazard tree remediation work required. And then up at District 4, so the coast side, we had some rock debris that needed to be removed from Devil Slide, and we had a number of trees go down in Quarry Park that went down just across the trail. So we have been working to clean that up, make sure that those trails are accessible. As you can see, it's been fairly dry this week. We haven't gotten a lot of sun, which means it's not drying out, but we haven't been getting new rains. So we will start seeing visitors coming back out. So we need to make sure that we're addressing any hazard trees and any trail closures that are there. And then in District 7, we had a power outage at San Bruno Mountain, which is impacting our ability to pump sewer from those toilets. So restrooms are currently clean, but once we're able to address that, we'll get those facilities back up and running. So we had some storm damage throughout the entire park system, which is always to be expected when you get hit with a storm like we did. And again, we are working as diligently as possible to make sure we are identifying any hazards and remediating those, that any types of washouts or impacts to trails are getting resolved so further damage doesn't occur, and really making sure that our facilities are properly functioning. So with all that said, I cannot be more grateful for the work that the staff does. Scott runs an amazing group of rangers, and they all deserve every ounce of credit that they get and more, for staying on top of this the way they do, identifying where these issues are going to be when we get these storms, and making sure that they're preparing before the storm and then they're quickly acting after the storm. So this is really what keeps us busy during this time of year. And again, Scott and his Rangers deserve all the credit and more. And so that's really what I wanted just to bring the commission up to speed on today, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Through the chair, this is Heather. Hi, thank you for that update, Nicholas. That was really, it was great. It's great to hear how on top of it everybody is. I haven't been a regular at Crystal Springs all that long, but I was just wondering, like, is the level of flooding that we saw, is that something that commonly happens during heavy rains there? Like, how extraordinary was this storm?
Sorry, through the chair, Commissioner Green, everything we've seen at Crystal Springs is fairly typical for the amount of rain we've gotten. So what we're seeing is pretty par for the course. Again, we did receive a lot of rain there, so we are seeing a greater impact than what we've seen, say, over the last couple of years, but only because they've been very dry years.
Yeah.
But when we get that much rain, that is typically what we see.
Okay, thanks. And maybe this question is more to Scott, but I just I feel like it would be helpful maybe for the public and for us too to understand kind of like the process of surveying, like when we have a storm. Can you just talk a little bit about how you go about figuring out what needs to be done for repair and like prioritizing it and those kinds of things?
Sure, I could speak to that through.
Thank you.
Normally before all of the rainy season starts, we start clearing culverts, trees, anything that's going to be in drainages for expectation of any flows that we get from high water. It's been complicated at Sawyer Camp Trail. The area that keeps flooding there is probably the lowest point next to the reservoir. So it acts as a major drainage. And I think we had photos of it. It was pretty amazing to see. It was probably over, I'm thinking probably over 300 feet, 400 feet of flooded trail that was 2 to 3 feet deep. So that's just an inundation that's massive on the, and we have to wait for the water to recede at that time. And that's when we pointed out to Nicholas and Hannah that we had the amount of erosion that came out of that much water movement moved a lot of the gravel shoulder, which made hazards, and it undermined some of the trails. So we are currently trying to fix that. But all through the park system, we start in October, starting to clear trees, brush, and culverts to prepare for this. And it just depends how much we get and how fast it happens.
Yeah, and then thank you, and thank you for the amazing attention from you and your teams to the facilities. I guess I was trying to understand though, like when there's a major event of water, say, like how do you, like what's the assessment like how do you know, what's the process of collecting information about trails blocked, trees down, those kinds of things?
Normally when a storm hits, I have staff out there immediately that's reporting to me all through.
Okay, so you collect everything and then
everything the day it's happening. They're out in the storm. They don't melt in the rain. They're out there fighting it. So they let me know everything that happens, especially power outages, trees that are coming down, and anything where we're getting road failures or where we need to get the maintenance crew out if we have to do some shoring up so we don't end up with really extensive damage from storms.
Yeah, it's not amazing and not surprising, and I hope it's beneficial for folks to hear how attentive we are in real time.
They try hard. They really do. They're a good crew. They try.
Thanks. That's it for me.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other comments from the commissioners? All right, maybe I had one more, and maybe it's a little bit of a build on what Commissioner Green was mentioning. But I guess the one thing I was interested in hearing a little bit more about was, given that this was, you know, an unprecedented storm. I don't know if it's like a, you know, 10-year storm, 20-year storm, whatever you want to call it. Are there any areas in the park systems where we may need to kind of invest in a bigger infrastructure fix to keep from some of these things happening? I don't know if it's at Crystal Springs or if there's anything we really can do, just given the way that it's set up. But are there any other like potential larger infrastructure projects that y'all would need to invest in, given what you've seen so far this year?
Yeah, through the chair, excuse me, through the chair, or I should say, Chair Laguna. So when we design projects, we consider certain storm levels as we go through the design process. For old infrastructure, which is what I think you're really asking about, when it's time to address the maintenance of that, whether it's a culvert or a trail, we assess whether that existing infrastructure is properly sized, or if we need to right size that and increase, say it's a culvert, increase the diameter or leave it as is. I think a great example is in Huddard Park. We have a large project that we are undertaking to upgrade the water distribution system. And as part of that, we're going to be modernizing some of the culverts out there. And part of that is going to be an assessment to say, how big is the culvert right now? Do we need to upsize that? So we do that on a regular basis when it's time to address that, the life cycle of that infrastructure. So we do that, you know, just kind of as part of our normal standard operating procedures.
Great, thank you.
Through the chair. So yes. When you look at the data of like, let's say the last 10 years, last 20 years, in terms of tracking where the flooding occurs, you know, are there places that have consistently been flooded? And if so, you know, have long-term plans been established in terms of how you know that is going to get mitigated? And so that's, you know, and when you mitigate, do you, and for lack of a better term, you know, do an EIR and see whether your mitigation is going to exacerbate or transfer the problem to some other location?
Through the chair, Commissioner Okello, we don't have, you know, say 20 years of historic data on which sites have flooded the greatest during a 5-year storm, a 10-year storm, a 20-year storm, whatever it may be. So we don't have that data on hand. When it is time to look at replacing these facilities, depending on the scope of the project, that determines whether we're going to do an EIR or not. But the EIR is really analyzing, you know, the CEQA to analyze impacts and make sure you're properly communicating that to the public. As part of our standard operating procedures, depending on the size and scope of the project, we will work with the Department of Public Works, who will take point on the engineering component of it, which is what I think you're really asking about. Right. And as part of that engineering component, it's not just, you know, again, using a culvert as an example, it's not what is the right size for that culvert, but what happens on the outlet side of that culvert, and is it creating new issues because it's shotgunning water out, or you know, do we have to put a dampener on it? So that's all done as part of the engineering process. It provided that one is required for that project. There are some where it's a very straightforward, cut and dry replacement of a culvert, in which case it's not necessarily needed, but for larger scope projects, that's how that will go.
I would like to follow up some discussion with you, because I don't think my thoughts are very clear on this, but I certainly desire to get a greater understanding. And so you may direct me to perhaps the appropriate people in public works so I get to understand that. But thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a quick question. Nicholas, do you have an update on the Murata Road Coastal Trail Bridge? Are you part of that? Or I know part of it fell down this last week.
Through the chair, through the chair, Commissioner Merrilies, that is a Department of Public Works project. I have not received an update on that. I can certainly reach out to Public Works and connect with you offline and give you an update at that time.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Of course.
Great, fantastic. Any other comments before we open it up for public comment? All right then, let's open it up.
Thank you, Chair Laguna. This is for item number 7, Director's Report. If your hand is raised, your name will be called, and I do see one hand raised for this item from Miss Caroline Ann Young. So give me 1 second while I put my timer up, and you will have 2 minutes. Ms. Young, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to weigh in a little bit. You know, the coast side got hit really badly on the storms. The Pillarcitos Creek overflowed and stuff. I think, you know, maybe, I don't know if the parks budget is through the DPW or not, but you might want to start budgeting for climate change, because that's going to be an issue going forward. And there may be more bad storms like this. I think the Sierras just got, I think I heard 17 feet, although that might be wrong. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Chair Laguna, that was the last for public comment for this item.
Excellent. All right, great. So now we're going to shift over to the only one item that we have for on the regular agenda this month, and this is actually a follow-up to the December 2021 meeting. Actually, we had been talking about this for a while, where there was an interest in doing a couple things: updating work plans, updating subcommittees, and other things. And there was a thought that was circulated around, and then there was some interest in scheduling a commission retreat early in 2022, where we could, as a commission, talk priorities for the coming year, work with park staff to be able to understand their overall priorities as well, and also be able to kind of rekindle some of the work plans and subcommittees and other things that that have been sitting for a little bit due to the pandemic and a bunch of other things. So I guess for today's discussion, the couple things that we were proposing that we would go through, and we can go as deep or not as deep as we want to on some of this, but we wanted to make sure there was enough time to really, as a commission, have a discussion around a couple things. So one, being able to schedule this retreat. I think the preference was in February, so we can definitely, if we can align our calendars and schedules on a date and a time, I think that would be fantastic. It'll be a great first step in terms of overhauling a lot of those work plans, but also to really get into the agenda a little bit, making sure that we get everybody's perspective on what we should be covering during the retreat. As well as, and once again, I think this depends on how quickly or slowly the discussion goes, to start going into some of the subcommittees and other parts of the work plan that should either be added, subtracted, or changed. Now, the meat of all of that is probably going to happen during the retreat itself. But I wanted to make sure that, and in talking with park staff and others, I wanted to make sure we had enough time to have kind of an open discussion, so that we at least got everybody's initial thoughts as we were starting to plan for this retreat, and really make sure that everyone had their say as well as their perspective heard as we were starting to put this all together. So I think that's kind of the high level of this. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll share my screen really quickly here. All right. So I'm just going to share one of the bits from the There we go. Hopefully you guys can all see this. But basically to talk through some of the discussion points, and then maybe we'll just go one by one and start kind of talking through. I know for a lot of you guys, you might have just seen this for the first time when the agenda packet actually came out, but I'd love to start talking through what it is we want to actually go through, as well as some of the specifics around how we want to craft this revised work plan and subcommittees for the coming year. All right. So I guess just to kind of get into it, the first thing I wanted to get into was setting the date and time of the retreat. I know that it sounds like a little side thing, but I think it's going to be very important. So I would love to be able to kind of get y'all's thoughts on how we can kind of align on this date and time. In talking with park staff, I think, and once again, Director Calderon and Assistant Director Onshaw, you guys can kind of let me know kind of whether this lines up with what I think I heard, but it felt like later in the week in February would probably be a better set of dates, like maybe a Thursday or a Friday. When I initially came to the team and talked a little bit about the timing for it, I think it was probably going to be like maybe like a half day or so, like 3 to 4 hours. So I guess I wanted to just kick off the discussion first to ask about kind of availability in February. Is February a non-starter? I realize we don't have Commissioner Manna on the call right now. We may have to follow up with him a little bit later, but I wanted to start to get at least a little bit of alignment in terms of the timelines and when in February might be a good time for us to kick off this retreat and really start to work on some of the work plans and subcommittee work for the coming year. So I'll open it up to the commissioners. I guess maybe the first question is February feasible, and if so, kind of what is each commissioner's kind of I guess proposed or slots that are available for each of the commissioners.
I think through the chair, I think the first thing that we need to talk about is what exactly do you want to achieve with this retreat. I think that's
sure.
Yeah, that's
sure.
probably a lot more important. That's going to dictate how soon we may want to have this retreat or not, at least from my perspective. And for me, the retreat is basically to develop the work plan. We can say it's going to be the work plan for the next year. We can and really don't do anything else. In the process, we obviously are going to review we'd like to get a presentation about what the department's priorities are. And of course, we're going to obviously also collectively review the documents that created the commission and the expectations, that the Board of Supervisors has for us. But I think our primary task, I think, with a retreat is to come up with a viable work plan.
Yes. And yeah, no, I would totally agree with you on that one. And I would say that drives everything else, like what are the subcommittees and all of that other stuff. Yeah, no, for sure. So I think that definitely is going to be a prime piece. You can even see here in terms of a couple of the potential things that we had for the retreat, right? The department priorities and all these other pieces. So I do think that definitely makes sense. So if you all think that we should talk about because we need to talk about both, to be honest with you, and it looks like we have at least a little bit of time here. I'm fine talking about the goals and objectives first, and then we can wrap with the date and time. I just wanted to make sure that we had that sense of urgency, right? And granted, we are meeting every month now, right? But If at all possible, I'd rather not have this this retreat kind of slip into April, May, June, and then we're halfway through the year before we actually get it going. And that's why I was thinking that a February timeframe would work. But yeah, we can shelve kind of the timeframe and talk about that next. If you all think that it's best to kind of talk about or discuss the broader goals of the retreat and make sure that they're in line with what everyone is looking for. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Green. Sorry.
Through the just on that exact, I mean, can we just, there's software for this. Like, can we schedule not as a discussion? I just feel like that will be extremely challenging. Like,
sure,
if the department could suggest half a dozen time windows and we can doodle pull it or something.
That's funny. I had suggested that as well. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine, and we can take it offline. I mean, I think as long as conceptually everyone is not like leaving the country for the month of February, or is unavailable for any times within the month of February, I think that makes sense. I think I also just wanted to make sure there were no non-starters, right, in terms of the February timeframe. But yeah, we can definitely also follow up and put a couple proposed times on the calendar if that works better for everybody.
I would agree with that. I think we can schedule the time easily. Use technology to do that.
Great. And yeah, and I think as long as conceptually we're on board with Feb and nobody's balking at that, I think yeah, we can hopefully find something with the help of park staff as well. Okay, great. I think that works. Okay, so then maybe what we do is we go into and we had put together a proposed set of things that we want to go through. And I guess I just wanted to make sure that we had some alignment. I think there were a lot of pieces that park staff and myself had kind of put in here as potentials for the retreat. Commissioner Akello, I totally get your point about trying to be as laser focused as possible on that work plan. And I think depending on how everybody else is feeling, maybe that's all we do, right? We review those department priorities, and then we get that work plan updated, the one that gets tacked at the end of all of these agendas, right? And we go to town on it from there, which I think is fine. I think there were a couple of other things that we had also proposed as things that we could kind of go after, and that I thought could be really helpful as we're going into this new year where we're meeting 12 times a year. One of them was identifying some of the time-sensitive items that need to be kind of added. And I'm thinking of things like the budget, a flood park update, right? Which I think, I don't know if it was the last meeting or a meeting before, we had talked about, in I think it was like early in the year, we were gonna provide an update on that. So I think part of what we should do also, and once again, if it's too aggressive, let me and everyone know, but I felt like it would be good to start slotting agenda items more than 1 month in advance, right? And I know we have an agenda item at the end of every meeting that talks about items for the next month's meeting, right? But there are some items that I think we just need to kind of slot in, right? Like budget, right? I know we kind of got a little bit hamstrung last time where the timing of our every other month meetings didn't work with when some of these presentations were going out there. And granted, some of that could also be, I guess, handled by subcommittees and working that way. But I also think it'll be important for the things that we can slot in for this 12 meetings per year, that we kind of align and agree on that as part of the retreat. So we have a little bit more, I guess, standardization around how we set some of those agenda topics. The other one that came up was the Brown Act training, and I think Director Calderon had brought this up to kind of give us all a refresher, right, on the Brown Act, and be able to kind of give us a little bit more information and understanding on how to kind of abide by the Brown Act and get that training in place. So I think those were two other things that we thought could be interesting for the retreat as well. And maybe what I'll do, I've been talking a little bit here, is open it up to the commissioners just to get your initial thoughts maybe on those two items and whether we should be adding them or not adding them into the into the retreat agenda.
Through the chair, my personal reaction is that we really should not.
Okay.
I think we focus on the work plan.
Yep.
We focus on the subcommittees, and we have some discussions as to how those subcommittees are going to function. We become very clear as to what the board, what we as a commission expect of the subcommittees. And so, for instance, on the issue of the budget, we're going to have a finance committee, or we're going to have a budget committee, or whatever it is we choose to call it. And we as a collective, as a commission, we're going to have expectations for kind of the work that they're going to do. So they're the ones that are going to be the point people to tell us, we need to discuss the budget at this time, during the year. They would bring it up. Okay. Questions relating to, major capital projects that, the county may be involved in terms of parks. We have a subcommittee that would have within their purview a discussion on some of those items. So whether it's flood park or any other project, and if they feel there's a need to bring that to the commission within a certain time frame, then it's brought up. And then we take the responsibility of fitting it into our agenda and so on and so forth. But I think whatever work we do in establishing this work plan is going to spill into all of these other areas, I think. Or I hope, because then we can create that new expectation that subcommittees are going to do the work, and they're going to be reporting, and they're going to be making demands of the commission in terms of what needs to get on the agenda right now. On the Brown Act training, I think Brown Act training, from my experience, will take a long time. And I'm not so sure we can fit it into this discussion regarding priorities and work plan, and it may behoove us, to schedule another meeting in which we do nothing else but this Brown Act training. So those are my comments.
Great. It looks like Commissioner Green has her hand up.
Sorry, the mute button was dancing away from me. Thank you. I think I have a different point of view from Commissioner Okello. I would really love for us to plan out the calendar as best we can. I mean, allowing that there are certainly like items that could arise in addition, but I think that's a really good idea. And especially because, I mean, if you look back at least the most recent work plan, like one of the major actions we can do as commissioners is to request information to be presented before commission. And so I hope that would be helpful to department staff to know more ahead of time, like kind of when they need to pull what, and to get people prepared, and then also give us some assurance that the things we care about are going to be covered. So I guess I would expect that to flow from the discussion you have there in commission priorities. I have to say, like, the subcommittee structure is a little it's confusing to me. I've not seen that as like but I'm open to it, to continuing it. And I think I understand how it's supposed to work, but we're such a small body. I don't totally understand how that fits in with our role as a commission that is meant to be advisory and hearing policy decisions and then making recommendations to the board. I think if we want information from the department, like we call that before commission. And so I guess I'm hopeful that by looking at the calendar and having more meetings, like we could fit in the things we care about into that body. But maybe if there's prep work to do in advance, like if people want to hear to get preview presentations so they can ask like those questions in advance and have their comments incorporated into the presentation before commission. I guess that's to the subcommittees. And then Neil, I mean, you've done more, I know you've done so much subcommittee work, which seems like participating in processes. Do you want to talk maybe a little bit about the role?
Yeah, I mean, you can do stuff in a subcommittee that you can't do on the commission. You can meet at different times, which allows you to meet with different people. Not everybody can be available for a commission meeting. You can meet with neighbors and friends groups. I mean, it's very helpful to be able to do actual work in between the commission meetings that don't include the whole commission.
Is that different from doing it as an individual on the commission? I've never understood that.
What was that?
Is that different from being an individual on the commission doing those things?
No, it's just it allows you to bring more to the commission meetings.
Do you see what I'm saying? Is there something special about being a subcommittee? Like you did a lot of those things on your own, right? Like some of the subcommittees you were on were with a commissioner who is vacant. Like for the see who's vacant, right?
You can have two commissioners, and that we've like with the dog committee, we always had two commissioners, and we had friends and interested parties, and but you can't have three commissioners.
Right.
So then you can do work and you can bring that back to the commission, and the commission can accept it or reject it or ask for more and whatever, and that's been very helpful. It helps move things along quickly.
Yeah, I guess my parting comment would be then it sounds to me like the subcommittees are a way of naming things that commissioners care about, and that too would get addressed in the commissioner priority item, that item A there.
Yeah.
And so, if they overlap in teams of two, wonderful. It could also just be a priority and an individual commissioner would seek to advance, information gathering and policy on that.
You're right. And it could go nowhere. That's another reason why subcommittees are good, because you can explore things without taking the commission down a dead end. It could just be something that somebody's interested in.
Yeah. So I guess Chair Laguna, to your original question, to me that sub item A, and well, I would love to hear the department's at this retreat. I would love to hear the department's priorities first, personally, and then I would love for us to take the time to talk about like what we care about and why we're here and what we want to know and what we hope to achieve. And then to come up with like a short list of priorities for us as a group and then for us as individuals. And then to, for each of us, whether it's individually or in teams of two, to walk away with, what we hope to do. And I think that would include thinking about the calendar. I think that would be, it's a very concrete thing that
totally. And I actually see the calendar, as one of the outputs, right? Once we're able to get the work plan / set of subcommittees kind of set up to really be able to then use it to kind of drive what it is that we want to see and hear in the committee meetings. So I think that's a great way to phrase it. Okay.
I have one question. I'm sorry, just before, is the meeting, is it going to be facilitated? Who's going to run the meeting?
Well, so I've talked a little bit with park staff, right? So we'll probably just be kind of self facilitating. I mean, I'll be there to kind of help out. I'm not sure if Director Calderon, you actually have some staff, or if we need to actually, you know, have kind of an external facilitator. But I think we have enough between, you know, my duties to kind of keep this thing on the rails, plus the Parks Department to be able to kind of facilitate it most effectively. And in terms of like preparation and other stuff, I know that that the Parks Department has said, and I don't mean to put any words in everybody's mouth, but that they would help in kind of putting together the materials and kind of getting everything together once we agreed on a time and a date as well as an agenda.
I don't think I'm entirely, through the chair, I don't think I'm entirely comfortable with that. I think we need a facilitator. We need an objective person that is totally outside of the group so that we can individually totally participate as commissioners, instead of wearing a facilitator hat at one point and then wearing a commissioner hat at some other point, or wearing a staff hat at one point and wearing a facilitator hat at a certain point. I think those functions need to be distinct and they need to be separated. So if we have the resources, you know, then that should be option number one. If we don't have resources, then obviously, you know, that's going to dictate what we can do, and we can have what you're suggesting as option number two. But I think for this thing to be effective, I think, and you know, to use our time wisely, I think it's going to be good to have an external entity, person, you know, midwifing the process.
That's actually a great suggestion, and I don't know, Director Calderon, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past when we've hired facilitators for one purpose or another, right? I mean, there's a financial cost with that. And I'm not aware the commission has a budget to hire people. With that said, there's a representative in the county manager's office, and I won't use names because I'm signing them up for something that I haven't talked to them about yet, but it may be helpful to have this individual who, as part of their role with the county, is to oversee essentially boards and commissions. And I think it would be helpful to have this individual, to see if this individual could facilitate the conversation, in addition to what I would say has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to boards and commissions and local government, has a really strong understanding of what the board and the county manager's expectations are for boards and commissions, and for how departments and boards and commissions interact. So I think having that lens available and present would be extremely helpful for the conversation.
Through the chair, I mean, I think it would be really helpful to have that like some context offered, even at the start, if you think that person would be willing to share a little bit about that. You know, it would help ground us maybe in like what it is we're supposed to be doing here.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, Commissioner Green. Through the chair, Commissioner Green, when you say context, could you elaborate on that just so I'm able to relay accurate information?
Sure. I mean, just like exactly what you were saying when you were, you know, offering that, well, not offering, but you were suggesting that the county administrator's office has that perspective about, you know, different boards and commissions and what they contribute and how they're valuable within the context of like the greater county government picture. You know, like not a lengthy discussion, but a few minutes just remind, you know, I think it would be helpful grounding for the session to remind us like what our role is, and, you know, implying there like what it's not. You know, I think it'd be helpful to have some guardrails around where we go if we're going to do a big, you know, like, what do I care about conversation? I think, yeah, I'm sure it will get very ambitious, but, you know, there's only so much we're on for.
Yeah, through the chair, Commissioner Green, I think that's a great point, and I appreciate the elaboration. So I can certainly have a conversation with this individual tomorrow or Monday, and figure out how to set this up. I know there's an ongoing effort at the county to have these types of conversations with boards and commissions, to survey our boards and commissions, as well as to offer this Brown Act training. I know Commissioner Okello expressed concern about the duration it requires, but I know that there's a effort to standardize Brown Act trainings for commissioners and board members. So I can better understand how that could play into this, whether it would make sense to have it be part of it or have it be separate. I can also better understand that.
And
through the
Director
chair.
Calderon. Oh, go ahead.
Through the chair, I think that's a wonderful option. We have somebody in the county whose purpose is to facilitate commission functioning and so on and so forth. I think that would be an ideal, quote unquote, third party that can facilitate. So I would strongly, support the effort in that direction.
Yeah. And I would add that, even though I've been a little hell bent on getting it in February, if there's no availability in February, I'd actually be willing to wait a little bit extra just to make sure that we have someone that could effectively facilitate this, because I also agree that it'll be very important just to make sure we set this off on the right foot. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind talking to this individual and seeing what availability is there, and whether they were willing to do it at all, I think that would be a great step forward if we could get someone from the county to be able to help.
And through the chair, I would strongly suggest that we have early in the year. So if you're talking about the last week in in February,
yeah,
then I think we really should try to get it done in the last week in February.
Yeah. Great. Excellent. All right. So I think we've kind of aligned across a couple things. I mean, I think there's a few pieces that we'll need to kind of sort out, like whether the Brown Act training should be, added or not added into this, and whether we should focus, and how long it will be. Because yeah, I'm assuming if we had like a full day slot, I'd be fine with it. I'm just not sure how able and available the commissioners would be for a full day. That's why I think we're initially proposing maybe a half day for us to go in there. But we can definitely follow up, and Director Calderon, I think maybe we can follow up on the idea around maybe a Survey Monkey or some other way to be able to put out a couple of options for folks so that we can kind of align on those calendars. But obviously it's going to have to be done post your conversation with the person from the county, just to make sure that we can get some alignment of those timeframes. But we can definitely take that as a next step. The only
Through
other,
the chair, sorry, just on this question of duration. I mean, I really, I was very eager for the monthly meetings. I am, excited that we will have more time together to do more work. I do really want us to be mindful about what we're asking for here. I know that the work of the commission is important, but I think a full day would be beyond the pale. And honestly, I think a whole half day is a lot. So I would encourage, my preference would be to think about what we could accomplish in 2 hours. There are only 5 of us. So even if we each spend a full 15 minutes talking about what's important to us and why, in soliloquy, we would just be at 1 hour and 15. So I think, especially if we have a facilitator who can guide the conversation and try to help keep us on track, and we leave a little room for buffer, I would just encourage us to try to be efficient.
Sure. Yeah.
Not that I don't want to spend a whole day with everyone. You are all wonderful.
Oh yeah, no, I think yeah, but taking the time out above and beyond kind of all the other things that we do, I know is an imposition and a burden. I mean, I think it's obviously worth it, but I also know that most of us have day jobs, right? This isn't a paying gig, so yeah, I think the more that we can kind of put into a smaller period of time, I think would be really helpful.
And through the chair, if I could make a suggestion to Nicholas, Director Calderon, we are not an isolated tribe. We have other commissions in the county, but we don't know who the heck they are. And so and it may be important to us to know who are the other citizens of this county that are serving in a similar role such as ourselves, but in an entirely different field. And so I would like for us to sort of contemplate, if you're going to have a Brown Act training, could we have it on a day for all the commissioners that serve in the county? Because it's going to give us an opportunity, at least to meet some of them, even if it's virtually, at least to meet some of them and, know who they are and see what kind of concerns they may or may not have about their function relating to the Brown Act and so on and so forth. I think that would be interesting. So if that could be suggested that, let's have a whole countywide commission Brown Act training, and technology allows us to be able to do that.
Through the chair, Commissioner O'Kelly, I think that is a really good idea. And as part of the CMO, the county manager's office's effort to, better coordinate with boards and commissions, I do think there's an effort to connect commissioners and board members so that one another can understand each other's functions and bounce ideas off of each other. So I do think that is something that has been discussed, but I can better understand that. And again, bring that information back to the commission so that the commission could have that opportunity. So that was I'm happy to do that and maybe throw out an idea if the commission is interested. I know there's talk about by the end of February. Is there a thought that you may be interested or you may be prepared at the beginning of February? And is there an interest in maybe extending your February meeting by 1 hour and using your February meeting time slot, given that it's already on everyone's calendar? It minimizes the challenge of identifying dates and times, given that everyone has worked jobs during the day. That might be a feasible solution.
Through the chair, that may be a pretty good idea. We can have our next meeting be the retreat, and add an extra hour since we've already budgeted that time, for this activity. So I think that's a wonderful idea.
Through the chair, question about could you just please remind me, maybe this is to Nicholas, about the timing for flood park design? Because I remember also, like, I thought the thought was for that to go early in the year. I thought that was time sensitive.
Through the chair, Commissioner Green, so in February, we'll be holding our first public workshop.
Okay.
We will not have information to present to the commission for consideration until later in the year.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm misremembering. Okay, then yes, I'm very fine with that. Maybe.
Great. Well, I actually also agree that could be a very good idea of extending the meeting and then just kind of calling it all as one. Do any other commissioners have any? Well, first of all, on that proposal, does anyone have any thoughts about that, or any other general comments about kind of how we should set up or prepare for this upcoming retreat?
Chair Laguna, can you address the question that came in the public comment for an earlier item about, like, what is this? Is this a meeting of the commission where we're just talking about our work plan instead of like hearing department presentations? And like, will the public be there? I know it's not an action, there's not like action items, but is it a public meeting?
Sure.
I think it is. If more than 3 of us are meeting, then automatically it's a public meeting and it has to be noticed. Then the public is welcome to participate in it.
Yeah, I believe that's, and Director Calderon, it looks like you're nodding as well. But yes, that was the impression that I had as well.
Okay, so it's just a meeting where we talk about our own work instead of the department's work. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so. I mean, there's obviously going to be some Parks Department input as well, right? I mean, I think as we set up these discussion points, but yeah, it's to align our kind of broader work plan and make sure that we set up the right subcommittees to get work done for the coming year and beyond.
Cool. Yeah, I think that sounds great. I mean, I'll just offer I'd be happy to work with whoever's setting the agenda to go over it. I've done a fair amount of such facilitation type stuff. And so, happy to contribute to that if that'd be helpful.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Yeah, and we'll follow up now that we have a little bit of input from the commissioners to really be able to kind of tighten this up and then start to set the agenda in a little bit more meaningful of a fashion. So, okay. Good. Any other comments from the commissioners before we open this up for public comment on kind of how we should be setting this up or the timeframes or anything? I think, well, a couple things just to kind of, and it's more for me to just kind of line up my thinking here, right? So one is we're going to follow up on the proposed dates, but I think folks tend to be gravitating, unless there's a big reaction, to maybe using our next commission meeting to be able to have this retreat or our work plan session, however you want to call it. So I think that's one. I think the second one is, and I'm assuming if we are going to do it as part of our next commission meeting, that we would probably have a separate Brown Act training that gets done at another time. I would assume that's also the case. And then the focus of the discussion is going to be around one, we're going to get the park department priorities. Second of all, we're going to start to pull together commission priorities plus that work list. We're going to take that work list and then assign it across different subcommittees. And then if at all possible in that 2+ hour time frame, we'll also start to use it to calendar maybe some time sensitive agenda topics for the coming year. Does that sound about right? All right, I will.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess I would offer that it might be helpful to think of like, what do you want to have at the end of the meeting? And I think at the end of the meeting, you want to know, I know I want to understand the department's priorities and, priority work streams.
Mm-hmm.
I would also, if they exist, would love to hear about, goals for each of those priorities, but I understand that the strategic planning, so that I know we were waiting for hires and stuff. So if that doesn't exist, that's okay. And then, I think what you're asking each of the commissioners is like, what do you care about? And to try to come up with like a synthesized list of like priority areas and topics. And then to have for each of those some to-dos over the course of the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. And persons responsible for each of the to-dos. And some of those to-dos may include calendar items. And then it might be a natural, like, kind of closing questions to say, well, are there other calendar items that, don't exactly fall in any of these buckets, but that we know we want? Mm-hmm. I think that'd be a solid 2 hours.
Yeah, no, that's a great articulation of it. So thank you for doing that. So I guess is that aligned with everybody else's thinking around what it is that we're trying to do here? Maybe I'll just open it up to the commissioners, Marilee Zacchello. I guess does that sound like what you were expecting, or are there other considerations or other things that we should be adding as part of the preparation for this upcoming retreat?
I think that sounds great. Nicholas, so this would be at our next regular meeting. Would you be there, Nicholas? And would we have somebody to like record notes or priorities and stuff like that, or should we do that ourselves, or just kind of how will this work?
Through the chair, Commissioner Marilee, I will be there. We'll run this like a normal Parks Commission meeting, in the sense that the department will be there. Commissioners will be there. If it's going to be the first meeting in February, we will, Janet, we may be bringing you back for that one. We're still working on bringing on a department administrative assistant. As you all may recall, we borrow Janet every meeting from planning and building. Janet, thank you so much for the wonderful job you do. And so we'll probably ask Janet to come back for that. So we will be here, and again, we'll run it as a regular meeting. I think the question I have though is, and it's for Craig, if we are going to extend the meeting, what is the best way? I believe we may have, Craig, do we need to cancel the February meeting and call it a special meeting, given that we're extending the duration of time? Craig, you're off mute, but we can't hear you.
Sorry, how about now?
Yep.
Sorry about that. I try to be extra careful about muting, guys. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, Nicholas. I think either is an option. Your meeting has to identify a start time, but not necessarily an end time. So if you're just intending to go an extra hour, I don't know that would require you to change anything.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Any other comments from the commissioners before we open this up for public comment?
I think the way Commissioner Green has summed it up, I think that's pretty good. I think she's captured, everything that has been, spoken about, at this meeting. I do have one question to Director Calderon, however. The department also develops its priorities. It has a meeting, it's developed its priorities and so on and so forth. So have those been developed yet? Or when are those annually developed? Are they developed every year, every 2 years? Where the entire department staff, or the top leadership, come together and develop those priorities. And so if our expectation is that there's going to be discussion of those priorities in February, assuming you have it on February the 3rd, is the department going to be ready to do that?
Through the chair, Commissioner Okello, because the county operates on a 2-year budget cycle, we identify what we plan on doing for the next 2 years as we go into as we essentially go into the adoption of year 1 of our 2-year budget. So that happened last year. So we're currently in year 2 of the cycle. So we do have our we're going into year 2, I'm sorry. So we do have our priorities. We have our capital project priority. We have our programming priority. We have our maintenance priorities. So we will be prepared to discuss all of that.
Okay. And so perhaps in the future, if the commissioners wants to have some input in terms of what those priorities should be, then we need to start thinking about how that could potentially happen at the meeting at our retreat. Because I think the commission would at least I personally would, and I think Commissioner Green probably also would, love to have some input in the development of those priorities.
Through the chair, Commissioner Okello, we're certainly happy to have that conversation. Just as a heads up, the priorities that we will be sharing with the commission in February have been shared with the commission prior. So they haven't been packaged in, I think, the way we will in February, but they've been presented to the commission a couple times in the past. So full disclosure that they won't be anything that you're unaware of at this point in time. So just a heads up on that, but we're happy to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Great. So Commissioner Green, I'll take your offer up to kind of help shape at least this kind of preliminary agenda for next time around. I'll fall short of calling it a subcommittee for us to kind of get together, but maybe we can work with park staff to make sure that we set this thing up in the right way. So when we do have our meeting, we have a concise agenda, and that we can get through all of the stuff in the time that's allotted. So I will definitely take you up on that offer to get into it a little bit over the next couple of weeks.
Sure, happy
Great.
to. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else before we open it up for public comment? All right. Well, we'll now open it up for public comment. Janeth, would you mind seeing who's on the line?
Thank you, Chair. We're now opening up to public comment. If your hand is raised, your name will be called. I do see two people online with their hands raised. First, we'll call on Mr. Ron Snow, followed by Carla Ann Young. Let me put my timer up. So I will go ahead and stop sharing your screen, Chair Laguna, so I can do that. And you will have 2 minutes. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Mr. Snow, please accept this invitation, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Yes, I'm impressed that you guys are talking about this retreat, and I think it shows a very professional structure that will probably aid everyone going forward in the next years. I guess my comment is, we're talking about priorities for the commission and priorities for parks. And I think as a member of the public, I'd like to sort of know in advance what the candidates are for those priorities. And I would hope that there would be a mechanism for the public to also offer suggestions that would be candidates for priority setting as well. And then the other aspect of this, I think, is so important for the public to have something that is easy and accessible in the sense of understanding what are the priorities. Nicholas had mentioned that the park had a set of priorities, but I don't know how to access, it's probably my my inefficiency here to actually figure out where that is, but it should be easy for the public to be part of this process. I mean, we're all here because and for the benefit of the public. So I think it's great that you're doing this. I think preceding to your retreat, it would be great to publish this in advance, publish the candidates for priorities, and allow the public to maybe add some of their own ideas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow, for your comment. I will next call on Ms. Carla Ann Young. Please accept this invitation, unmute your microphone, and you may begin speaking.
Hi, Carlisle Ann Young, Moss Beach. I would say that I believe when Commissioner Green verbalized her thoughts on what the prior agenda would be, that she left out the budget. And I've listened to other Parks Commission meetings where there's never a budget attached to the agenda. So I think if you're going to be putting your retreat together and the general public's invited to listen in or contribute, I really would like to see the budget, just like Mr. Snow represented a minute ago. You may know what the targets are, but the public doesn't, and it's not usually on the every other month agenda in the past. So I hope you can make that, Heather, part of your putting together of your thoughts. You didn't mention it, so that's why I was suggesting it. And of course, as Neil knows, I'm really hardcore trying to get the commission to look at the needs of the coast side. It's ironic to me that the people in near Flood Park are complaining because they're getting $13 million, but they want to keep their trees, and we don't have anything over here that's in anywhere near close to the design of what the county's spending on Flood Park for all the amenities. So I really do think, as far as equity goes, you ought to look countywide and see which cities have community centers and ball fields and tennis courts and you name it, and then see what the coast side has, because we're pretty much the forgotten area. We have a lot of great county parks, I'll give you that, and a lot of trails. So we've got the trees and they've got the money for the budget over there in Menlo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Chair Laguna, this is our last comment or public comment.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. All right. So we're gonna switch gears here and move over to commissioner reports. I'm not sure if there are any commissioner reports, but this will include Kevin, the Youth Commission report, if you have any updates as well. So and maybe we start with you. Do you have any updates to share with the broader commission?
I do not have any updates. Just to let the commission know that I'm also been meeting with the Youth Commission. I've been updating about what you guys are doing here.
Excellent, fantastic, thank you. Any other updates from the other commissioners?
No, but I'm looking forward to this year.
Great. Yeah, I think this will be really good. I mean, I really feel like the fact that we've moved to monthly meetings, I think, is going to be really helpful. Also, realigning and reigniting that work plan is going to be a real boon to everyone, and hopefully we can use it to really get ourselves, and I know we're still in the midst of a pandemic here, right? But kind of shake us a little bit of the last couple of years, which have been very have put us very sideways, and really start to continue to make improvements, in not only the way that we work, but also the impact that we have on the overall park. So I'm really excited about that as well. Great. All right, so we'll move next to items for future agenda. I think we actually had talked about one of them, so we'll see whether it makes a match for next commission meeting to extend it and turn it into the retreat. But I guess I'm not sure if there are other topics that the commissioners are looking to potentially add, maybe not even for this next month, but whenever we do have slots to be able to talk through other items above and beyond what we'll probably be coming up with as part of the retreat. So any comments or any additional things that we should be aware of or should add to some of our potential agendas for next month or future?
If the retreat doesn't happen in February, I would just be eager to hear sometime soon. We had early when I started, there was a presentation about the Parks RX program, and just like the connection between parks and public health. There's so much good. We've all learned that through the pandemic, to being able to be outside in the kind of facilities that we have. And I just am eager to hear more on that front. And so if we're not planning, that would be wonderful content or sometime soon, but I'll say that in February too.
Excellent. No, that's a great topic. Any others to add into the list of future agenda items?
Oh, sorry, just one other thing. Just if we can hear an update on the action we took last time about the free parks, like how that policy shook out with the board. If we wound up doing it by people with the CalFresh cards and the Medi-Cal, or how that went.
Through the chair, Commissioner Green, I can address that right now.
Sure.
The board created a subcommittee, so they did not adopt the program. they created a subcommittee to further this conversation. So no action was, no direct action was taken. And we are working with the county manager's office and the two supervisors who were appointed to the subcommittee to schedule the first committee meeting and advance the conversation on what it is that the board would like to see with regards to vehicle entrance fees. The conversation that occurred during the board meeting was primarily around a flat elimination of the vehicle entrance fees and what the impacts of that would be, how would that funding, that lost revenue be offset. And Supervisor Slocum spent his time focusing really on identifying how we get more individuals into the park. So one of the biggest barriers we identified was time. And so he spent a lot of time really focusing on identifying how do we get individuals into the park. And so this subcommittee of the board is going to have to navigate all of that. And so we're still working to schedule the first meeting. So we don't have a whole lot of information to share at this time.
Okay, that's super helpful update. And then, so I guess it would be helpful. I don't have like a great ear to things like that. I don't know if other commissioners are better about it, but it would be nice if you could please like let us know when those subcommittee meetings are. It's obviously a really important conversation, and just want to keep pace. Thank you.
And I think it would be relevant maybe a couple months down the road once the subcommittee gets a little head of steam and maybe get some recommendations or things out. So cool. All right. Any other items for future agenda?
Yeah, through the chair. We haven't really gotten started on it yet, but perhaps by March, Commissioner Okello and I will have something to present regarding introducing some Native American names into the park system.
Cool. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to push you on that one, but I remember earlier last year. Yeah, we were talking about that. So cool. All right, fantastic. Anything else? All right. Well, it's 5:37. So if there is no further discussion, I guess I'll move to close this session. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, everyone, and we'll reconvene Thursday, February 3rd.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.